Well, what's going on, Facebook family? It's your main man, Joe Dupree, in the building on this fifth day of October as we're making our way into cooler weather.
Ooh,
And of
love it.
course, it's football season and so
Love
much
it.
more going on. This is the hallowed month, the Halloween, all the scary stuff coming in, but we don't want you to be scared. We wanted to let you know that your mental health matters and a healthy you is a better you. I'm so blessed to be in the building with my good friend Edward J. Brown, Positive Choices
My
Counseling
brother.
Service, as we do another Wellness Wednesday. How you doing, my brother?
Hey man, I'm loving this weather. I'm loving this time of the year. I got to hear it all the time from these Libra folks. October is the best month of the year. And you know what? I ain't arguing with them this year because
Okay,
the weather is beautiful. I mean, things are changing. You see the leaves changing, and so yeah. And it's football season, so we
that's it.
we have, we can't complain.
That's it. So, without further ado, here we are with another Wellness Wednesday, brothers and sisters, friends and family. My good friend Edward J. Brown from Positive Choices. Here we
Good
go.
people, good people, good people. Listen, I want to revisit something that we had an opportunity to talk about a few months ago, and I've had a lot of people come to me with things that's been going on in their lives, and I keep hearing this reoccurring theme, and so I'm going to share with you today. And it's as simple as we have to look at the valuable things in our lives. And I didn't say costly. Costly and valuable, cost and value are two separate things. So tonight I wanted to visit one of these things that I think we all have to take time and look back at, and that is the importance of time. Time is that thing you can't buy. It's that thing you can't stop. It's the only constant in this life cycle, and that is that things are going to change. Time is going to continue to move forward. So, with that in mind, something that we really have to talk about, and you know how I said there's a difference between cost and value? There's a difference between what we call taking care of self and what I'm going to label today as choose you versus being selfish. Okay, so there's our first half of the show is where we're going to talk about the importance of time and how we utilize it or how we waste it, because that's something we got to look at too. And then
Correct.
that's going to directly lead us into, are you selfish if you choose you? Because too often we put ourselves on the back burner. We don't tell the people who mean the most to us what they mean. And then when time is up, we're crying over the casket, or we're saying, if I had one more minute. So we're going to talk a little bit about those two things. Now, in regards to time, we as human beings have an expiration date. And my brother Dupree always say we are closer to our expiration date than we are to our birthday, some of us.
Correct.
So when we start talking about the importance of time, because we can all sit back and agree time is important. That's right. You shouldn't waste time. Then why do we? When you know that there's those things that you should be doing, that you have to do, that we must do, but we find some kind of way to put it off. Procrastination is one of the biggest flaws we have as human beings. We waste time. Brother Dupree, me and you could do at least 10 shows on the woulda, coulda, shoulda. I should have did this. I wish I had done that. But when you get to a certain point in this life cycle, you realize I don't have time to waste. I tell people all the time, where I am in the life cycle right now, I don't have any time to waste. Not another second. Everything I do, I try to make sure it has purpose. Now, even when I'm doing nothing, Sometimes I need to rejuvenate. Sometimes I need to rest. But I definitely do not have time to waste with people and on things that love to waste time.
Mm.
You ever met those people that they every time you see them, they talk about the same thing?
Right.
Every time you see them. I mean, their conversation is about the same thing. They're complaining about the same thing. And now I've gotten to the point where I say, well, what'd you do about it? To take a quote from Joe Madison, what are you going to do about it?
Good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? Because he'll go on, he'll let people go on and on and on this show. And then when he finally gets to the point where he realizes they just ranting and raving, he'll say, so what are you going to do about it? Well, I'm just, no, I don't want it. You said enough. What are you going? So when we find people and things in our lives that cause us to waste time, why do we stay there? Why do we stay there and pump time and energy into something that is not going to change? Why can't we let it go? Now, some of the reasons that I hear is, well, some of those things are family. And guess what? If you let them go, guess what they still are? Family. They still family.
That's right.
Yeah. You know, just because you don't waste and dump any more time into certain situations doesn't mean those people ain't family. They're not your friends. I just have no time to waste on that anymore. I have a very good friend of mine that every time I see him, we have the same conversation. It's the same conversation over and over. So much so that now when I see him, I just end up checking out. You know, if I can't get away from him, he'll talk and I'm just thinking about something else.
Mm.
So we are going to talk in the second half of the hour about why do we have this guilt thing? Why do we carry this burden of, if I choose me, I choose not to waste time, I choose to do what's best for me. Why do we have that sense of guilt? Or, oh, you selfish? Not necessarily. I read a book by T.D. Jakes, and in the book he talks a lot about the art of forgiveness versus the art of forgetting.
Mm.
You know, and it was very profound because he was like, just because we forgive someone doesn't necessarily mean we forget.
That's correct. Very correct.
So we may not be in that position to where we will say, I'm going to forget, but I'm going to forgive, but I'm definitely not going to forget.
Correct.
So as we look at this podcast and we take this opportunity to talk about, you know, the art of time and not wasting time, we have to look back and ask ourselves, what are the important things? What is the importance of having time on our side? We see the difference when we're dealing with young people, don't we?
Correct.
Young people move differently through the life cycle than some of us. We have young people who move, and you know, sometimes when we look at our age, Brother Dupree, we always say, I wonder if I was like that. You know, I mean, I wonder if I was that way. And of course we were. But now, as we look, we're at, you know, midlife, and we say, okay, time is going to be a little. Stephanie Mills says also in the song Home, time be my friend.
Mm.
And what we mean by that is slow down a little bit. You know, because I'm sure you can remember the first time you saw your little ones walk. Now they're grown.
Correct. Very much so.
Time flew by.
Correct.
Time flew by. So we're sitting here now, and why is it so easy for us to waste time? Well, the way we're built as humans, it's that we always think we have more. There's more. There's going to be more tomorrow. There'll be another day will come tomorrow. And what I look at people and I ask people is, how do we know that? We don't have the expiration date.
Correct.
And I may have to blow the dust off of that assignment I gave my students. I asked a simple question, and I'm going to pose it to my brother. Brother Dupree, I'm going to ask you a question.
Talk to me, brother.
If you could know the day and the time of your expiration, would you want?
Lord.
Would you want? You wouldn't want to know?
No, sir. No, sir. I'm good. I have a funny feeling that there's a reason why in that book, Bible, Basic Instruction Before Leaving Earth, that it says no man should know the time or the hour.
Right. So what do you say about people who say, yes, I want to know?
Well, I mean, that's their choice. That's them. I have no problem. I have nothing wrong with those who feel like they want to know that, because guess what? Each man must find peace with his own resolve. That's my newest thing. Just because you and I don't see things the same way doesn't mean that you're right and I'm wrong, or I'm wrong and you're right. It doesn't mean that. It means you have a certain way to have the resolve and the peace you need in your life. And if that means looking at a certain situation a certain way, I'll let you look at it that way.
Exactly. Especially if we find no common ground.
Correct. Correct.
I'm not going to waste time. I'm not going to continue to, go on and on and on with you when we both realize we are not going to find common ground with this issue.
Correct.
We're just not.
Correct.
So at that point, I'm going to stop my timer. I hit my timer and I'm like, that's it for me. So, but we constantly have to interact with people who have different relationships with time. This is the next part of this. We cannot go through the life cycle, or we cannot live on this planet and not deal with people who have a different relationship with time. You'll have folks, we know the show starts at 10 o'clock.
Correct.
And at 9 o'clock, they start getting ready. And like, what are you talking about? The show doesn't start till 10, but we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't parked. We haven't walked to our seats. That's a different concept of time. I remember I used to have a coach. And coach said, if practice started at 3:30 and you get here at 3:30, you late. He was like, because you need to be warming up, stretching, and doing everything, because we're going to start practice at 3:30. And if you're not warmed up, you late. So when we start looking at time, there's a movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but I know it starred Justin Timberlake. And the whole concept
about time, correct.
Yes, remember that movie? That the whole concept,
I remember
was time was the new currency.
Correct.
They give you more time. And it was a very interesting, whether you thought the movie was well done or whatever. I thought it was a great movie, by the way. The whole concept of the movie was interesting to me. The time was the new currency. When you got off from work, that was your check. They gave you more time.
Right.
So when we start to look at why is time important, and one of the reasons is that we interact with people who all view time differently. And what I've grown to realize at this age is that the older you get, the more knowledgeable and the more conscious of time you become. I made a vow to myself, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Okay.
Anything over 4 hours, as far as driving is concerned, I'm flying.
I understand. Hey,
Yeah,
I
you know,
feel you. Hey, I'm not there with that one, but I feel you on that one.
yeah.
And just to give you some good kudos, the name of the movie with Justin Timberlake was In Time. That's the
In
name
time,
of the
if
movie.
you want to
In Time.
watch a good movie about time, that's a great movie. You know, because what blew my mind about, without giving it all away, what blew my mind about it was you had people who looked 30 but was what, 90 years old, because
Right, because
they kept getting more
right,
time.
right. Right,
You
right.
know,
And that movie was actually made in 2011. So that movie's got a few years on it, but it is a very good movie. It is a
very
very
good
good
movie.
movie about
You know,
how they use time as the new currency.
as the new currency. Yeah, you can give a person, an hour, or you can give them a day or a week. And what I found interesting about the movie, like I said, without giving it all away, is how people could exchange time with each other.
Right,
If you and I was talking, you said, "Man," I said, "Well, I'm gonna give you a week," and we would
right,
touch or whatever they did, and I would give you a week added to your life. So, you know, people moved differently through that movie when they realized, oh my God, I only have a month left of
right,
time. You know what I'm
right.
saying? Like, I only got a month left. So I think that the reason we have to talk about time and its importance is because we interact with people and we all view it differently.
Correct.
Because when you want to see the difference in time, look at an old person interacting with a child.
Correct.
Before you know it, that child is like, "Come on, let's go," and the old person's like, "You know what? I think that's enough of that for me." I think that's enough for me. So, that's why we have to pay attention, because you may be wasting time with an individual that there is no outcome that's going to be beneficial to either party. You kind of both are just spinning wheels. And you have to look at that. And again, you hear me throwing a lot of different, I thought about this podcast, pretty much for a day or so. And I've been just thinking about different things that I've read and I've heard, and one thing that I remember and listening to Oprah Winfrey talk, she said, people believe that when you have money, that you change the circle and the people that you hang around with. And she said, it's not money that changes, it's the time that you have to spend with and on certain things. She said, before I had these television shows, I had a lot more time. She said, but the more work I put in, the less time I had to waste. She said, I would love to spend my day walking on the beach in Bora Bora. She said, but I can't. I have things and businesses that I have to run. I tell people, being the owner of Positive Choices, I remember before I started Positive Choices, when I went to work, I went for 9 and I got off at 5. And that was it.
Right.
That was my day. But when you start your own business, you don't have a time clock.
Right, because it's 24/7, 365.
It's 24/7. Here I am now, 8, at 8:20 in the evening, because I'm passionate about letting people know that your mental health matters.
Right.
And one of the best ways to control your mental health is to pay attention to how you utilize your time. I had a rough day today. It was a rough day. And today I have a app on my phone, and it plays very tranquil music and it's very peaceful sounds. And sometimes I use that to just get away, because I've been blessed to be able to travel different places. And some of these sounds make me think of those places.
Right.
And if for no more than 30 minutes, because that's how important that time was, I was able to escape and go somewhere else.
Well, brother, let's be real about it. Like for example, in the city, I know we're not only in two different cities, we're in two different states. We've had in the last 24 hours actually 3 homicides, one person who took their life, who was the individual who actually caused the other 3 homicides. So we had what they call a murder suicide.
Suicide, correct.
Uh, then we had just a few hours ago, we had a tragic shooting at the college, around the college. It wasn't actually on the college campus, but there was a fight, an altercation that broke out, and a UL student got shot. He's in critical condition right now. We're all dealing with stress triggers that are dealing with something in some shape, form, or fashion on a daily basis. So yeah, we got to let people know that a healthy you is a better you, and we've got to talk about these things because your mental health matters.
Correct. And again, those individuals never thought on any given day that was how their day was going to go.
Correct.
So, it may sound cliche-ish, but it's not when you say take advantage of every bit of time that you have. Take advantage of that, because tomorrow is not promised. I know all of this sounds like, especially for young people, all of this sounds, and I had a very, very, very good conversation with a young person. And how you say you meet those young people and they're old soul, they kind of been around for a while, and and they say, I just like being by myself. I just like my peace. And that is a blessing to have that and be a young person, to be able to slow down and enjoy the things in life that most young people don't. So I think that, when we start looking at the utilization of time, we have to look at what happens when we come to a point where we realize I'm not willing to waste time anymore.
Correct.
This is that part, the second part of this hour, where we say, what happens when I choose me? What happens when I say that's not in my best interest, so I'm not going to participate? Oh, then the terms and the words and the stigma gets thrown. You selfish. You don't care about people. And one of the things that I had to think about the other day is in that movie, Boys in the Hood. When they were riding in the car, and the character Trey, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., said, stop the car. And Ice Cube's character looked back and he said, what? Stop the car. Let me out. And he got out of the car. I remember when that movie first came out, people was like, oh, he was a coward. He was this and he was that. I said, you missed the whole point of the movie then. The influence of his father.
Correct. Kicked in.
The influence of that positive person in his life was more of a factor than peer pressure.
Right.
That was the point. It wasn't about being a coward. It wasn't about, oh, he didn't love Doe and the rest of those kids. He made a decision that was best for him. Why are we so quick to beat ourselves up and say, am I selfish? Or why are we so taken back by the label, oh, all you care about is yourself? If we make a decision that is best for us.
Correct.
Because we deal with it every day. And if we sit here pretending we don't, most of us have done so many things, not because we wanted to, but because what are people going to say if I don't?
Correct.
Oh my God, brother, do you know how many events I go to that I really don't want to go to.
Talk to me about that one.
And I'm just putting it out, but if you don't go, people are going to say, well, he doesn't care.
Right.
It's not that I don't care. I have a different relationship with maybe the issue that you guys are addressing. I may have a different relationship with the time that you wanted to do this. And then sometimes, now watch me get my brother excited, because this is something, bro, we've talked about a lot of times.
Let me get on here and make sure I'm good.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you. I go, and when it's the photo op, I don't want to be in the photo. But
bam.
Then you see, I told you.
But then
you
see prime example.
Hold
it. Prime example. Let's make y'all laugh for a minute. Me and this brother go back like 4 flats on a Cadillac. I sent him a text this Saturday. I said, man, where you at? Where you at in the stadium? He said, I'm parking.
Yeah.
So I thought he had parked. I didn't send him another message. I walked the stadium and didn't see him. And so I had to come back and do what I had to do. We didn't get to see each other once again for another game, but he's still my brother. He's still my brother. Right. So sometimes things happen and life happens, and people really need to understand that life happens. And in this thing called life, some of the best plans of mice and men go awry. So, that's where we've got to stay on top of things. Like you said, this thing with time you're talking about. Yeah. There's some people who went to sleep on Sunday night, did not know that they were going to wake up this morning minus some loved ones that they winded up minus due to natural causes, due to gun violence, due to drug overdose, due to suicide, due to a lot of things. You've got to value people while you have them, because you don't know when they won't be there anymore. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, again, like we said, we have no idea when that clock for us is going to stop.
Correct.
And that's why when I'm talking to school teachers or when I'm working with law enforcement, I tell them, you have to understand, young people think differently about the concept of time. They feel I have so much time that I don't have to worry about that right now. So they live that, what I call that Superman syndrome, which they don't feel they can be hurt. They don't feel that anything's going to happen. They live differently when you are at a certain age. But once you begin to become conscious and aware of time and how it impacts your life, you use it a lot differently. You move differently through the life cycle than you did when you had that Superman syndrome.
Right.
I remember, think about it this way. And here's the best example. Take a young person and then take a middle-aged person and plan a vacation. You will see at that very moment how people view things completely different. The older person is like, you know what? We need to maybe rent a couple of these cabanas so we can sit down and be by the pool and watch, and then you see the young person, well, where the party at? Where the music? And like, wait a minute. We came on vacation to relax.
Right.
They come on vacation to party.
Right.
Now, luckily we can find that medium because we can do a little bit of both. But we move differently through the life cycle when we realize time is that value or that variable that's very important. Now, I want to get back to what happens when you decide to choose you and do what's best for you. How do you deal with all of the backlash that comes from that? So the first thing people say is, well, you're selfish, or you're you don't care about other people. Choosing yourself does not mean you don't care. Just like the example we utilized with Trey and Boys in the Hood when he said, yo, let me out of the car. There are certain things that you have to do that is in your best interest, and it's called self-preservation. Doing what is best for you. And there's so many examples we can utilize. I know people who are extreme diabetic, and when they go to gatherings, they make sure that they pay attention to what they're eating. Do you think is that they don't love chocolate cake? Or they don't love that? What I just found out, I didn't know this was a thing. I just found out there's what's called black people iced tea.
What's that?
You know,
that's
what I was saying. What is black people iced tea? They said iced tea that's so sweet. That's so sweet, it can pretty much stand in a glass by itself.
Oh no!
They dump so much sugar in there. You know, I said, okay.
Diabetes in a cup.
In a glass. That's right. Diabetes in the glass. So, you know, but you have to pay attention. So if you're sitting at a gathering and you're putting yourself first as someone with, you know, with a medical condition, what I'm doing is not intended to hurt you. It's what's best for me. If you decide I can't make it with you guys, or y'all gonna go somewhere for 4 or 5 hours, I don't have 4 or 5 hours to come. I'll come, you know, for about 2 hours. That does not mean I'm selfish. It means that I'm gonna do and put myself first, at least in this situation.
Correct.
Now we can use so many other situations like domestic violence. You don't love me. Why? Because I won't let you beat me. At some point, we have to get rid of this guilt that we carry around for choosing self.
Right.
Choose you. And that's one of the things that is my mantra for this month of October and breast cancer awareness month. Choose you. It's okay to go and have yourself checked out. It's okay to participate. You know, I tell these people, it's so many cancer walks going on, I can't do them. I mean, it's just too many. It'd be 3 and 4 in one day, you know. Correct. So I'll make a donation, or I'll commit to sending some healthy snacks to the walk. But it's okay for us to stand in front of one another right now and say, Brother Dupree, I'm going to choose me.
Right.
I got to choose me this time.
Right.
I can't do it. I can't make it.
Right. You know? Hey, and we need to be that, you know, because let me get in here on this. Because many a times the sad thing is you can't save somebody if you haven't saved yourself.
Oh,
you know, there's a reason why in the airplane, and we use this analogy many a times, they say, look, in case of an untimely drop of pressure, you know, make sure you put your mask on first, because if you can't help nobody, if you passed out, you can't help nobody if you passed out,
including your children.
Correct.
You can't help you put your mask on before your child, so then you can help them.
Many a times we need to make sure that we're straight, because like I tell folks, like there's a lot of things I use hashtag start with self many a time for a reason, because I tell people you can't love nobody if you don't love yourself.
Exactly.
You can't fix nobody if you haven't fixed yourself. If you ain't got yourself together, how you gonna get some? If your house ain't clean, how you gonna clean somebody else's house?
Hey, like Guy said in the barbershop, it's a story I tell all the time. Guy comes in the barbershop and he said, "Hey man, can I come cut your grass?" And the guy who was getting his haircut turned around. He said, "Well, you want to cut my grass?" "Yeah, man, I saw your grass look like it need to be cut." He literally, this is a true story. He looked at the guy. He said, "Isn't that your house at the end of the block where the grass almost tall as the fence?" "Yeah." He said, "Well, how you want to cut my grass and you haven't cut your own grass?"
Right.
So I think that, you know, it's some sad, very, very sad, you know, storylines that we've actually seen with people who don't. How many times have you heard a man drowns for jumping in trying to save his cousin or his son or his dog, and he couldn't swim? You know, they couldn't swim, but the reflexes made them make a very bad decision at that time. So I'm at the point now where I am pushing folks through this month of October. My mother is a breast cancer survivor. and it is a cause that is very dear to my heart. I've lost some very, very close friends of mine to cancer, period. So I tell people today, choose you, be okay with it. As long as your choosing you does not hurt anyone, it does not block anyone else from doing anything they need. You do not need to feel guilty from choosing yourself. And we really have to stop that. Oh, they so selfish. Why are they selfish? Well, I asked them 3 times to come and do this, and they wouldn't do it. You think it might be time for you to stop asking because they just don't know how to tell you they don't want to do it? That person may be choosing them. Now, let me show you and bring it home to where it actually applies right here to this podcast. You may be wanting to get counseling services, and because no one will go with you, you haven't made that call. You have to choose you. Pick up the phone and call and make that phone call that will make you say, I need some help. I have some things going on that I need a professional to help me sort it out. I will promise, I will make you a promise. It will be one of the most anxiety-free calls that you will ever make. No one will pressure you. No one will tell you, oh, you crazy or something's wrong with. We will walk this journey with you and make sure that your journey is uniquely yours, that we customize something especially for you, that you will be given our undivided attention to address the issues that's going on in your life that you would really like to resolve, or at least get some clarity about. So we do this podcast and we're talking about, the utilization of time. We're talking about choosing self amidst whatever the situation may be. Even for us as therapists, I tell my staff all the time, it is okay for you to take some time to get yourself together. Just because we provide a service where we deal with other people's problems does not mean we don't have problems of our own. We have issues of our own because we're human as well. We're just professionals. So it's okay to choose you in a given situation and do it without any apprehension and do it without any guilt. We see that all the time, especially now during this time of the year where football is running rampant and we have people who are diehard fans. I have a lot of friends up here in this area. This is Cowboy and Saints country.
Yes, sir.
So we go back and forth and I had to tell one of my friends the other day. I said,
wait a minute. Who is your team anyway? Since you said it's Cowboy, are you a Saints fan, right?
Now I bleed black and gold. My first Saints game was at Tulane Stadium. So I'm born and raised in New Orleans. I can't be anything but a who that. But I tell my Cowboys fan, I say, we talk trash to each other. We're not even playing one another.
That part.
So I think it's okay. We have to get to the point where it's okay for us to choose ourselves. And I am going to say this 100 times today because somebody needs to hear that. Somebody needs to hear it's okay for you to choose to get counseling. It's okay for you to choose to go to that doctor and have that physical. It's okay for you to let go of toxic relationships. It's okay for you to make a commitment that you're going to eat better. It's okay for you to say, you know what, you and I can be friends, but I want to have to, kind of limit the amount of time that I spend with you. It's okay to choose you. If you are in a toxic relationship or you are a part of a toxic relationship, it's okay to cut ties. Because one of the things that I tell people who have a really hard time cutting ties. I say, well, why do you not want to cut? Well, who are they gonna have if I leave? And as a therapist, one of the things that I always say, they'll find someone else. Most
Right.
toxic people usually do.
Right. That part
Yeah,
right there.
most toxic people usually find someone else. They don't stay alone very long. So I think that, we've gone through so many of these podcasts and we've talked about so many different issues that I wanted to revisit today, which was the podcast where we talked about it's okay to put ourselves first sometimes. And that analogy that you use, and it's real life actually, where on the plane they said if we lose cabin pressure and the mask falls, put your mask on first. It's okay to put your mask on first. We're actually instructing you to put your mask on first.
Correct.
But too often we go through life and we give and we give and we give and we give. And one of the things that I realized, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. If you are empty, how can you pour into someone else? So it is okay for us to do self-preservation. We can grow and we can be the best us we can be and have to leave some people behind.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about there a couple of years ago, I think it was running rampant. I don't know if someone had preached it somewhere or whatever, but they were saying people come into your life for a season. And man, I started hearing everybody say that. I was like, okay, everybody comes into your life for a season. And now I understand that because that's true. That's why there's such things as reunions, right. Because think about this. I live in Mississippi. I went to high school in New Orleans. If it wasn't for, reunions, I would never see any of those people.
Correct.
But what has changed the game is social media, because now we can all connect again via whatever social media site you choose to use.
Correct.
But we go through the life cycle and we interact with people, we take something away and we move on. We interact with people, we give something and then we move on. Then we interact with people and those people become a part of our life and they stay with us. But you cannot spend a lot of time wondering and beating yourself up on why certain people moved on from your life. And I'm going to tell you a quick story on how I realized that I was changing in the life cycle. I had to go to the school for my daughter.
Okay.
And so when I went to the school, the teacher was sitting behind the desk. It was after school. And she was sitting on one, my daughter was sitting on one side, and I'm squeezing into this desk. And I never realized how much bigger I was sitting in that little bitty desk. I was like, wait a minute, you start scratching your head. And it was really an eye-opener for me. Like, man, I'm no longer at this point in my life cycle. I'm no longer in the student desk. I need to be sitting behind the teacher's desk. That's because when time comes and time goes, so do we as parts of the life cycle. No matter how much we might want to, Brother Dupree, we can't go back to the third grade.
Right.
If you go try to sit in somebody's third grade class now, they'll arrest you.
That part. That part.
They're going to arrest you.
Yes, sir.
We can no longer go back to, times in our lives that have come and gone.
Right.
So that right there shows you the importance of time.
I think that's one of the reasons why folks normally tell you you can there's a lot of things you can waste, but don't waste my time.
Don't waste my time.
Because two things God's not making no more of. That's time and land. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Mm. That's
So
it.
so you'll hear people say that quite often. They'll
Mhm.
say, "Hey man, there's a lot of stuff you can do, but don't waste my time because
Don't waste
that's
my
something you
time.
can't." When you look at relationships, think about it. I tell people when you have investments in relationships and they go awry, you can't recoup that time. That's why
Nope.
that's why to me divorce is so devastating. That's why
Yes.
certain things when relationships go awry are devastating because if you spend whatever that length of time is,
You
be
can't
it
get that
1 year,
back.
2 year, 10 year, 20 year, you can't go back and recoup those years. Those years are
Can't get that
gone.
back. Like you can't get that, and all of the effort and work that you put into it.
Correct.
Not just the time, but the effort, the energy, and the work all becomes for naught.
Right,
Wasted.
right.
Wasted.
Literally, you may have built something for someone else to enjoy.
And here's the thing. People always say, well, it's never wasted. You learn something. Yeah, you maybe learn something. But again, you do not have that time that you invested into that person or that situation. It
Correct.
becomes different. It
Correct.
grows and it goes, and then what do you have? You end up with, like you said, just the memories, just the memories. So as we start winding down to the last few minutes of this podcast, I challenge everybody that watches this today to decide how you're going to better utilize your time. How are you going to better take control of something that you have control over, which is how you spend and use your time, and decide that you're going to do it without any guilt. You're going to do it without any remorse because it's okay to choose you. Brother Dupree and I made a commitment that we were going to take an hour out of our lives to talk to people about mental health because we had young futures dying,
Correct.
taking their lives. We have young brothers and women out here with at-risk behavior, not taking, their lives seriously. I don't care if I die. You should. You could be that piece of our society that we've been waiting on.
Right.
So if you don't get anything else, get to the point where you start to say, okay, every day I wake up, I say the same thing. This is what I say. Every morning when I wake up, I said, okay, Lord, you woke me up. There must be something that you need me to do. And I pray that I find out what that is and I'm successful.
Come on.
That's what I say every day, every month, because guess what? I could easily not wake up.
Correct.
So when I wake up, must be something.
We all need to value what is the gifts that are given to us to understand that even at your worst, there's somebody who wish they could be you.
Yes.
At your best, there's somebody who's happy that they're not you.
Correct.
So you've got to know how to bask.
That's
you have to bask in your own ambience and sometimes say to yourself, I am what I am and be happy about it. Now, I want to say this right now, and I hope those who review this don't take this in any way but the way I'm giving it, which is really genuinely from my heart. There's a lot of people out there talking mental health. There's a lot of people out there doing podcasts. There's a lot of people out there talking about helping people who are less fortunate than others. I am committed with this brother to do our little part of helping out the best we can. Folks that know us, folks that see us, people see me at Southern University. People see me in the streets of Lafayette. People see me at Essence. People see me all over the place. I'll be at the Bayou Classic. I'll be at the Jackson State Southern game. I'll be all over the place. People see me from my radio days. people know me from many of the things that I do. I'm always about trying to help people realize, as I always tell people, I have FFH. FFH. I always try to tell people stick to the facts, stay out your feelings, and don't listen to hearsay.
Correct.
If you stick to the facts, stay out your feeling, and don't listen to hearsay, 90% of your problems will be evaporated.
Mm-hmm.
Many a times we don't listen to the facts, or we don't hear the facts. We don't really hear what was said, and then we process it wrong. We get into our feelings. Instead of making a logical decision, we make an emotional decision.
Exactly.
And too many of us, way too many of us, day to day, listen to hearsay. We don't even know if the person telling it to us saw it the right way, heard it the right way, got the proper information, but we want to run with a bunch of hearsay, and then we sometimes compound our own stuff on top of the hearsay, which makes it completely just crazy. Facts, feelings, hearsay. Stick to the facts. Stay out your feelings, and don't listen to hearsay. And know that, guess what? And I tell people this all the time in my profession: just because I can't prove it, don't mean you didn't do it.
Correct. Exactly. We all have secrets. When you say everybody have a secret
until they get caught.
Until they get caught. That's right. Until they get caught. People, we are committed to what we're doing. We do this whether one person watch or whether 100 people watch.
Right, that part.
We do this every Wednesday, and we've gone from Mental Health Mondays to Wellness Wednesdays. I think that it's our commitment to making sure that you have options. It's our commitment.
Hold on for 1 second, because I just got a message about something. So I do want to address this before my brother goes any further, because we got about 8 minutes. Listen, family, we know that a lot of people are hurting, especially when you look at situations of, and I always tell people, because of something else that I do that I don't talk a lot about on this podcast, but normally when trouble comes, it comes over three things: relationships, money, and some type of addiction. Be it alcoholism, addiction to opioids, drugs. I mean, that's what causes problem, or a combination of the three. I know a lot of you are watching social media, and you're watching a lot of people that you have a lot of love and trust in going through divorce court, going through relationship issues. We will probably in the next podcast start addressing, relationships, and understand
Absolutely.
this. Just because everybody on social media going to divorce court don't mean you need to go to divorce court.
Correct.
Don't stop taking on other people's stuff and all of a sudden waving their flag. Wave your own flag. Stop waving other folks' flag. That's all I gotta say about that.
Okay, well, let me jump on that. What has a tendency to happen is, and we'll talk about this. This will be the topic of our podcast next week. Deal breakers.
Come on.
You sit there and you see all of these folks in divorce court, and when you find out what they're in divorce court, you say, y'all got divorced about that? And to them, that was major. That was their deal breaker. And to you, that was very minute. It was like, oh, okay, y'all got divorced over nothing. And then there's people who, been together 30. I had a guy tell me the other day, he said, man, I know this couple that got divorced after they've been together 35 years. He's like, at that point, you might as well just stay together. It don't matter anyway. I think, well, obviously it did matter to them. But my thing is, you can't look into someone else's house and apply your values.
That
because
part.
It
say
will
that.
not work.
No. Say that again for those in the cheap seats all the way in the back.
You cannot look in someone else's house, relationship, or life and apply your values. They won't fit. They may have that round hole and you trying to shove that square peg in it. It does not work. I think that we definitely need to start talking about relationships in regards to the way the media portrays it. because the way the media portrays relationships is getting a lot of people in trouble because it gives a idealistic and a very unrealistic viewpoint sometimes. You know, because if you look at these housewife shows, if you become a woman and you believe that is what a wife is, if a man cannot provide that lifestyle, then he's not the man for you. You may end up being an old lady unmarried.
Correct.
I think that, and what I'm also going to talk about, and I'm giving a little preface into, is I've been watching this list, and I've been doing this for the past 12, maybe 30. Nope, I started at Alcorn. So for the past 12 years, I've been watching this list, and it's put out every year, the top 10 things that people say is important in order to be married. And the reason I keep looking at the list every year, because you know love is slowly but surely dry. I said in another 5 years, love is going to be out of the top 10 because it's currently number 7. Can you imagine that?
Wow.
It's number 7. I remember when I first started looking at this list 12 years ago, it was number 3. But it has dropped to number 7. So in another 5 years, love may not even be in the top 10 things needed in order to get married. So, yeah, I think that we're going to have to eventually use this podcast to talk about the impact of relationships and relationships in the media, relationships on television, you know, relationships around, you know, in our own families. Because you cannot start to say, well, I want a relationship just like that, because you have no idea what that relationship is going through behind closed doors.
Well, you said it best.
Go ahead.
You said it best, my brother. You said it absolutely best. You cannot take your formula of success and place that formula of success in a foreign environment that may not have anything connected to your formula. At the end of the day, you really said a mouthful. Too many times we try to sprinkle our special sauce on something that is not made for our special sauce. You trying to put gumbo roux on something that wasn't made for gumbo roux. Or better yet, you're trying to put something in the gumbo that's not meant to be in the gumbo. Like they say, tomato don't go in a gumbo. Corn don't go, don't go in a gumbo. So wait a minute. But you'll have people jump up and all of a sudden they think they know how to make a gumbo.
Correct.
Sometimes in life, you have to say to yourself, that is what she or he likes. I don't like it, but who am I to tell them that that's not good for them? You know, at the end of the day, so many times I think people, I'll give you the best joke I have. The best joke I have as we get ready to close this thing out, and then I'm going to turn it back over to you. You know, it's all funny to me how some folks will buy Louis and Gucci and Prada, and it's not real Louis, Gucci, and Prada. And then when you with somebody, like I had the grand opportunity, I'm thinking about, I had the grand opportunity to sit with somebody who actually is a regional director for a high-end product. And he saw a person with a bag from, and I'm not going to try to call nobody out, so I'm not saying the product. So he had a person, he's over this company. He knows all the product lines.
Correct.
He saw a person with a bag and said, "Where'd you get that bag from?" And this person was, somebody big and important and tried to say, "Well, I got it at this place in this city." And he came back and referred back and said, "Well, I don't think I don't recall us having that line."
Right.
With that design and that pattern.
Exactly. Right.
And that person said to him, "But I'm Dr. So-and-so. And what are you trying to say?" He said, No,
you got a knockoff. That's what I'm trying to say. You got a knockoff.
He said, "I understand that you think you got this, but you really got that because I know every line personally.
And we don't sell bag like that." Right.
I've never seen that one. He said, oh yeah, it's got our logo. It looks like it's our design, and to the untrained eye, they probably going, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, here's the crazy thing. I actually like the design.
Yeah.
But I know that's not us.
That's not us. Right. Exactly.
So here's the point I'm trying to make as I turn it back over to you. You might be looking at something and you swear to God that it's 100% genuine. Mm-hmm. When the truth about it is, it's not.
Yeah.
Don't let your eyes deceive you.
Yeah.
In this thing called life, don't let your eyes deceive you. Sometimes you got to know that you know that you know that's the real thing. If you know that you know that you know it's the real thing, then stand. But if not, then hey, Houston, we have a problem. With that being said, back to my brother.
Hey man, I'm gonna be brief. I just want to take a few seconds to recap and say, please understand how important time is and use it wisely. Please take time out to build the best you can build in the amount of time that you have. And also, it is okay to choose you in any situation that you're in. It's okay to choose you. And as we always say, if nobody else told you today, we love you. Peace. We'll see y'all next week.